The crypto and Bitcoin markets are in a complete state of fear right now, guys. We just had a massive dip below 25,000. 25,200 was supposed to be the support line. What is going on? FTX is about to dump 3 point something billion dollars into the market starting on Wednesday. Or are they? And how will that affect the market? Is this big sell-off rationalized? Or could there be a really good opportunity here to make some profits? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. I know that you guys are worried about what's going on, so let's talk about it. Let's first get into this chart right here, which is which is not nice to see. Not nice to see, but we do know it is September, right? And this has historically been a pretty bad time for the crypto markets. In fact, we hit below $1 trillion crypto market cap, which is just sad to see overall. But we can see that we have some starting to retrace a little bit here from the low where it dipped all the way down below 25,000 down to just here 24,956, so just below the $25,000 mark. And we're going to talk about how to play this potentially on where there might be some upside and if this is all rationalized, right? Because we have this huge amount. And yeah, by the way, look at the Fear and Greed Index. This was updated yesterday, so I imagine that right now we're even more than this. But this is what everyone is talking about right now. So on Wednesday, potentially it becomes a sell-off of $3.4 billion in crypto assets into the market. Now, is this fear rationalized? And you can see that from Ryan Selkis from Mizari, posting this chart here, which is really important to look at, right? So this is showing you the Sol, Aptos, TRX have the highest sell pressure ratios, meaning the 7-day volume compared to the sell pressure. And the biggest ones to watch, meaning that how much can the market absorb on the sell pressure that potentially could come from the portfolio of combined FTX and Alameda. So you can see the biggest ones to be concerned about here essentially are Solana and Aptos. But is this warranted? And we'll get into here in just a second. And there's some good dialogue here back and forth between Solana Compass saying this chart is alarmist. The number of vesting tokens is known. It's on chain and on my site. 43.2 million SOL are still locked at 11/11/2022 close price. That's 704 million still locked, leaving 16 million liquid. 16 million liquid is just 1.8% of the recent 7-day trading volume. So almost nothing, guys, right? Almost nothing as far as what is being able to be sold. Now you can see that historically September has been bad, but Q4 historically overall has been pretty good for the markets in general. So now we're going to get into a case of, is this warranted and what might be the play? But this was a really good update that just came in from Mizari, talking about everything we've been talking about already. But let's just quickly read it. So FTX liquidations update. FTX liquidators hold approximately 1.3 billion of liquid crypto assets, excluding stablecoins, which have been dragged down by fear of FTX liquidations potentially beginning Wednesday. Largest holdings are Sol, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Aptos, Dogecoin, Tron, and Matic. The relevant figure isn't the absolute value of the tokens held, but rather their amount relative to each asset's actively traded volume. For example, FTX and Alameda Bitcoin holdings, 353 million is roughly 1% of Bitcoin's weekly traded volume, almost nothing, right? So even if that were to be sold off in one chunk, you might see a nice little red candle, but you really wouldn't see significant size as it's just 1% of the weekly traded volume. However, for Doge, TRX, and Matic, which are far less liquid, the 20 to 30 million FTX holds represent 6 to 12% of weekly volumes and can have much higher impact on the market. While Sol and Aptos have sizable USD figures and relative market volume impacts, these assets are held on Alameda and have and venture side of the house and are largely comprised of vesting tokens that are not immediately liquid on the open markets. This is really significant. So the biggest holdings that people were concerned about were Solana, and they have 1 point something billion dollars in Sol, which is about 15-16% of the entire Sol market cap. So in this whole court situation, bankruptcy situation, there's a massive amount of Solana held by FTX and Alameda that if it were all liquid and could be sold on Wednesday, would have insane impact, 15, 20% on Solana price, and would bring the markets into some really scary things to be concerned about. But this is the part that's really interesting. Only $9.2 million of SOL will be unlocked per month, which significantly reduces liquidation impact and places it more in line with the manageability of BTC and ETH liquidations. So really, this whole thing, this whole fear right now is about overblown in the markets. And so what I want to do is talk about here these levels and this kind of really is really kind of this is about the extent of my TA here. But really, if you want to play this because of what I'm thinking here, one, we know that we still have this BlackRock ETF in play, and that could come to fruition any day, right? And we know that institutions are smart, rich people are smart, and that they're looking for good opportunity to get into the market. And this whole thing of FTX liquidation starting in just about 24 hours, potentially pending a court approval, really caused, I think, a lot of this fear and what caused the sell-off today. But if you wanted to play this, if you wanted to potentially long here, I would set a stop loss very, 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 very tightly around 24.8. Again, we can see that we have this correction already. That doesn't mean it can't come back down, but we see this candle all the way down here and back to 25,158 right now. It was just when I started recording 25,200. So there's some uncertainty here, but it might be worth it because I am still overall personally bullish. It doesn't mean that we're not going to see a black swan. And one more thing too I want to talk about as well. But let me finish this thought real quickly. So we don't have a whole lot of resistance if we break 24.8. So 24.8 is something where I would set a stop loss. In fact, it's a little bit higher than that, but 24.8 is where I'd set a stop loss. And then if we break through that, we have really no support until this zone right here, when 2200 mark. So really, if we break through that, expect some type of fall back down to 2200 or so. And again, there might be a little bit of resistance here, and you might want to be able to play again if you are longing. I personally, it's just my belief in Bitcoin. I will never short Bitcoin. I just think it's a losing bet long term, and I just don't like to have that mentality of Bitcoin going down. I know it's not a trader's perspective. I'm more of a long term investor. Remember, I got into Bitcoin around $150, and I've always just held and only sold when I really needed money to start companies and things like that. So, but yeah, anyway, so set a stop loss tight because you never know. It's a really volatile market. We've got some scary things coming up in the macro markets. A lot of people anticipating, a hard landing in the economy, going into recession, black swan events potentially, real estate markets not being good. So, all of those things happen outside of the scope of what's being priced in technical analysis. And something to consider. So set it tight. And what I want to go into, also very important, what I did before I made this video and why we're posting it a little bit later than normal, is because I am uncertain about what's happening right now. I did make that video on AAVE for you guys about a week or two ago. Now, you need to be very, very careful using AAVE and any collateralized lending program, especially when you use this kind of looping methodology I talked about on the video. If you guys haven't seen it, make sure you go check it out. It's a good one on how to collateralize your holdings. If you're long Bitcoin or ETH, you can take your collateral that you already have in your wallet doing nothing. You could borrow against it, stable coin, and then go buy more Bitcoin or ETH, recollateralize that, take out more, and it's a good way to kind of leverage in a market. But you have to be very careful of your loan to value ratio. And so what I did before this video, because I am uncertain right now, I wanted to make sure that I will not get liquidated my assets. So if you, again, in that video, I talk about how to make sure that you do have, that you don't put all your assets in there, and you always have extra collateral sitting around that you can add to it in case markets gets very uncertain. So for me personally, I could absorb about a 50% correction right now in Bitcoin and Ethereum price before I would start to get my assets liquidated. I really do not think, I really don't think we're going to 12,000, but I'll be always watching closely. When you have these margin positions or these leverage positions open, you need to be really, really careful, and it does add a little bit of stress to your life. You need to, but that's trading in general, or using margin, or using any of these strategies. You have to keep an eye on your assets and the price of the market. So anyway, guys, I am going to personally open a little long here just for fun. I'm an eternal optimist in the Bitcoin market, and and I think that there's some good upside to be had here. I do think that people like Michael Saylor and other billionaires would love to get in at this price, at this 25, 150 right now. It's, in my opinion, a really good buying opportunity. And we're almost halfway through September. October historically has been better. Doesn't mean that we don't have more downside to go, but anyway, I think it's an interesting play, guys. Always be extremely cautious, but we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a retracement or a bounce all the way back up to 25.8, 25.7, something like that. So good little chance to make some money here in this dip. The overall point of the video is that I believe this dip is unjustified and just a bit of fear from the FTX event, which is really going to be a non-issue. All right, guys, if you found that valuable, make sure you like the video, subscribe to my channel if you're not already. My name is Chasse. I will catch you on the next one. See you guys.